Hi, my name's Doug. Some of you guys know me. I'm the youth director here. I think that's what I call myself, and this is one of my last sermons that I will be giving. At the end of the summer, I'm going to take off and start a new life and get married and all that fun stuff. And so don't worry, you only have to listen to me like 2 or 3 more times. So if you're tired of me, you're almost done, and that's good. Speaking of tired, some of these graduates have known me for quite a long time, and I'm sure that they are very tired of hearing my voice too. When I was in high school, we had a pastor at my church. I was raised United Methodist, don't hold it against me. And this pastor was very good. And I loved hearing him talk, and he was very energetic, and I looked up to him. And guess how many of his sermons I can remember to this day? The answer is one sermon, and I probably listened to him, I don't know, 300 times or more or something like that. And when you think about it, that's not a very good track record. It's not anything against him, though. It's just because most of the time I really just wasn't paying attention, and that's because I was young, or maybe that's because I really didn't like sitting in the pews. But there was one sermon that I remember, and it was very good, and I can still quote it to this day. But the point of this is, if I could do one sermon for one person to remember for the rest of their life, then boy, did I do my job just fine. And so if one person you can change, and that's so he changed me with that sermon. And so maybe I get to change one person today, and that's kind of what I like to think about. It gives me motivation to come up here and do what I do. So thank you for coming and sitting and listening to me. And let's be honest, this message today is not for everyone that's sitting in the pews. It's for our graduates, and the message is for you, and I want to be talking to you. And so sorry if I make a lot of direct eye contact to you graduates, because this message is for you guys. Now, the rest of you guys are welcome to sit and listen, or you can just take off. Either way. If you guys somewhere to be, I don't mind. You could leave right now. But I'm sure that maybe something that I say you could glean and listen to as well. The message for graduates resonates, I think, for all of us. I think it's an important one, and I think it's applicable to different parts of our lives, but that's the way it is. So listen, graduates, you feel very accomplished, hopefully, and you should. You've achieved a lot. Some of you guys have done an extraordinary job, and the fact that you're sitting here this morning, you are responsible, and you are intelligent, and you did it. And raise your hand if you feel a little bit proud of your achievements, graduates. Put those hands up, because they all should be up. Not you, Colin, just kidding. I didn't tell you before, you have to leave your cap on for the whole service today, so you have to put that. I'm just kidding, you don't have to put it on. So listen, when I started working at this church in 2010 or something, these seniors were in 8th grade. And when I look back on my life, and I think about myself in 8th grade to myself when I was a senior, number one, that's a big difference. But number two, that also was a huge amount of time of my life. Like from 8th and 9th and 10th and 11th and 12th grade, I have so many memories that I cherish from that time, some that I don't. But it's so long. But when I think back to the time that I've worked at this church, it just seems like it's here and gone in a flash. And isn't that the way it is? And I think maybe that resonates with some of our friends that are a little bit older. But time goes by quickly. So when I started here, these guys were in 8th grade, and I remember them from when they were in 8th grade, some of them. Teaching, when I first started, it was Nikki and Alex and Abby were in middle school, Sunday school, and teaching you guys, and you were very interested to learn. Some of you, not you, Nikki, but the other ones were from. And I remember the first time that some of them came to youth group on a Wednesday night and showed up and this kind of thing, and I was just very excited to see new faces, never thinking that new face would be someone that would hang around for multiple years and really, hopefully, they learned a lot. And so, number one, I apologize that I'm so long-winded, because you guys, all of you, have listened to me speak You think you guys have listened to me talk a lot. These guys have had to endure me like on a weekly or bi-weekly basis for like 5 years. And so that's something like, I don't know, I was trying to think of how many, like it's like 300 times I've got to share the good news about Jesus with you. And not to mention the times that we would be sitting there talking about the problems or issues that you're dealing with in your life and how you can solve them. So I feel a special connection to this graduating class. I really do. And so if I get emotional, especially since I know Cindy's going to get emotional sitting right in the front row, I'm going to look at you. I'm not doing too well already, so you better get strong for a minute. I feel a connection to these guys. I really do. So here's the deal. You're graduated. You have no school for the rest of your life. You have endless vacations, summer forever. Go have fun and do whatever you like for the rest of your life and never work, right? I mean, that's what wait a sec. I shouldn't say that. Parents are like, what's he doing? We've been telling him something different for a lot of years. I'd like to thank a couple people for helping make the graduation Sunday happen. First of all, Roger and his team that cook breakfast. We appreciate what you do. And we also appreciate everyone that helped with Betty and Rick and Laura and everyone like that. Even the people back in the back that don't get very credit up in the sound booth. We appreciate everybody that made this day happen. But the people we appreciate most are the people that brought their kids and let me take their kids whitewater rafting, and the people that let me take them to the retreats, and they trusted me with their kids, and I haven't killed any kids yet, so fingers crossed, successful. But I want to give the parents of these kids a round of applause for their work. Thank you, guys. Yeah, there have been injuries, but I mean, for the most part, they've been safe, I guess. So listen, today I want to talk about restarting. And the difference between restarting and a do-over is there's a difference here. You can't have a do-over in life, but sometimes you can get a restart or a fresh start. So that's what I want to talk about this morning. My high school experience was probably not too dissimilar from what you guys have. I'm not too much older than you. I graduated high school 11 years ago, and it was an interesting experience, I would say. I enjoyed my time in high school, I really did, but there's nothing I wanted more when I was 17 than to get out of that school. And does that resonate with it? You can just shake your heads, yes. There's a certain time where you're kind of like, okay, I'm done with all this. And you're ready for the next step. And one of the things that you really would love to leave behind is sometimes you're not very proud of maybe some decisions or some things or maybe certain relationships or certain friendships, and you're like, well, I could really use a fresh start. I could really use a restart in life. And when you graduate, you're given that, which is kind of cool. You get to go to college, and almost all of you guys are going, and that's awesome. And you're going somewhere, some of you guys are going somewhere new and starting new jobs or new schools, and you get to do all the stuff that you wanted to do, and you get to start again and be whoever you want to be. Because even though you can't start over and have the same experiences that you had in high school, there's no do-overs in life. There is restarts, but they don't come very often. Especially, I think, as you get older, the amount of chances that you get to start over, to restart and do things fresh, those chances, those opportunities get less and less. And so you have a unique opportunity at this moment of your life. This summer is formative. This summer is going to change who you are. And you can frame yourself into something entirely new, or you can just change the things that you didn't like about yourself from your past. And that's rare. And how many adults in this room would like to go back and do something in their life over again that they made a mistake? It's good, it's okay to say it. You can't really have regrets in your life, and I understand if you have a mentality of like, no regrets, I am who I am today because of my experience, but I have a couple things from my past where I think I could be a better person if that hadn't happened. And so this kind of experience is unique for you. So here's the deal. I'm comparing it to like running a race. Okay, so let's pretend like high school is a race and you're a runner or something like that. And so you're running the race, and all of a sudden you get to the end of high school and you get to the end of your race, and you ran the race and you're tired and you're sweaty but you're done. And so you get to the end, and maybe you won the race or maybe you didn't do very good and you ended up like way behind in the race. But either way, the race is over. And then you get to the finish line, and then you notice, just as you're out of breath and you're sweaty and you can't wait to change your clothes, you notice that everyone else continues to run. And this is one of those moments when you realize that life is not just short race. Life is not something that you can finish in a day or a week or something like that. That you have a marathon to run. And there's a lot of people in the room, they're shaking their heads like, you betcha it's a marathon. And they're looking at me like, Doug, you have no idea how much of a marathon it is. Look at you up here talking. But honestly, it is. I got a chance to run a half marathon, which is 13 miles, 13.2 miles, 13.1 miles. Okay, thanks, Tony. Okay, 13.1 miles and I never thought I could do that because I'm not real in shape. But I ran the race, and I ran it with my fiancée, Carolyn. And the only reason I wanted to run it was because I thought that I could beat her, and she proved me wrong by 1.5 minutes out of 2 hours and whatever time. And this is what life is like, because when you're running a marathon, you're not running against other people. I mean, in theory you are, but the race is not against others. It's not a competition. When you run a marathon, you're running against two things. You're running against, number one, yourself. And the second thing you're running against is the clock. Okay, life is a marathon, you're running against the clock. And so when you finished this race of high school, and you're done, and you got to the finish line, and all of a sudden you look up and there's another finish line. But someday you're going to get there, and you're going to look up and see another finish line. And that's good, because that gives you a reason to keep running, okay? It gives you a reason to improve yourself and improve your life over time. And that's kind of what's so nice about marathons, and what maybe when you're young you don't necessarily realize, and I'm still realizing it, is that there is a lot of race left to run. There's a lot of time left in your life, and it's not a competition against the people around you. Sometimes we think that it is, but I don't think that it is. It's against the clock and against yourself. You can only accomplish what you expect to accomplish. And so if you don't expect yourself to accomplish anything, guess what you're going to accomplish? It's nothing, okay? That's what's nice about a marathon. The difference between a marathon and a race is, number one, it's time, okay? You have a lot of time left. So if the marathon is, how long is a full marathon, Tony? 26.2 is a full marathon. So if life is a full marathon and you live approximately, 90 years or something like this in your life, hopefully, fingers crossed, maybe longer, 100 would be great. Hey, I'd be okay with 70, to be honest, but here's the deal. If that's a marathon and you guys are 18, I did some math. If the marathon's 26 miles, you guys are on mile number 5, okay? And when I was running this half marathon, mile number 5, I felt great. I'm like, I could run forever. You know what I mean? I'm like, let's keep going, do this all day. And then I got a little bit later in the marathon. I'm like, I'm ready to be done with this marathon. I think it's time to meet Jesus in my life and this kind of thing. This is what it is. And so you're just starting out, but here's the deal. When you're on mile 5, you have the chance to take a break, and that's what this summer is like for you. It's a break. It's a time to take a deep breath and think about what you've done, but refuel and get ready for a restart. And the Bible story that we read today was from Acts, and it was about the guy named Saul. You've heard of him, and he was a bad man, and he made a lot of mistakes. But Jesus thought that his path was a little bit not going the right direction, and so he diverted Paul's path. He changed his path. And Paul, his whole first half of his life, 30 years or something, 35 years of his life, he devoted it to a cause that basically was wrong and meant nothing. And then the second half of his marathon, the second half of his life, he was able to literally change the world with what he did. And he didn't start until he was older. He didn't even get started until the second half of his life. And here's a guy that wrote most of the second half of the Bible. Here's the guy that people read about and teach about today, is the same guy that did prison time, that led people to their deaths that were Christians, a man who had blood on his hands. And here he is giving hope to literally billions of people by his words in this Bible. Okay? The second half of your marathon could be a lot different than the first half if your life is anything like Paul's. And so Jesus gave him a wake-up call and changed his life. But some of you guys, you graduates, if you're listening to me still this morning, you guys, I know you, and you don't need a wake-up call because the people that are sitting here in these pews are already, to some degree or another, following Jesus or learning about God, at least trying and making an effort to understand the things that are printed in this Bible. And that's good. Your first half is already better than the first half of the guy who wrote the Bible. I mean, so you're on the right track to think about it that way. Maybe some of you guys don't need a wake-up call. Maybe what you need is just, like I said before, a refuel. You need a halfway point, or hopefully a 25% point or something like that, to change and realize that you can be something a little bit better than you are. And that's kind of cool. And so here's what I have for you. Let me get this paper. I know that all you guys have worked hard and did a good job, and you're all very qualified for this. I found this position in the newspapers and the classified ads. And so I have a job opportunity for you 7 graduates. So if you're interested in this, let me know afterward. Actually, I already filled out the application for you, and you already submitted it. You don't really have a choice in the matter, so you guys are already employed. Here's the job opportunity. Looking in the classified ads, you are hired by already, and so you are believers. You're believers, and this is your job. When it comes to God, He doesn't want a whole lot out of you. I read the words of the Bible and I read the words of the New Testament, and the number one thing that Jesus asked his disciples to do is believe. That's it. Believe in me. That's all. And sometimes we overcomplicate it. Sometimes it's like, oh, you read the book of Deuteronomy and you read all these rules and all these different things and all this stuff you're supposed to do, and it feels like you have to follow all of this stuff and do every little thing and be a perfect person, when Jesus simply said to believe. So you're sitting in the pews, and I know most of you, and so you have a giant check mark of to-do list, all right? And you have one check in it, believe in God. And most of you guys have put a check mark right there. And so you're already doing the thing that Jesus asked you to do, period. You've already applied for the job, you're already working. But now, the second part of what you have to do. So your application is done. Now you have to figure out, well, now I'm a believer. I believe in this God and this Jesus, and I understand what the cross means, and I understand that God gave his son and he died on the cross for me. But now what do I do? Which brings me to the second most common thing that Jesus said in the Bible. He wants us to share with others and help them to believe. Okay? That's it. And you graduated. You graduated school, and so you have a degree, and now you have all of these things, and you're qualified. But you've also, in some extent, graduated from youth group. And so now you're able to share with other people. And some of you guys are like, wow, this is weird to me. I don't want to become the teacher now. Well, tough luck. That's the way it is. You guys are sharers. You believe, and I don't have a whole lot more to teach you. I have more to learn, and if you want to learn more, then you can learn more on your own time. And to some degree, we're all disciples. For the rest of our lives, we're still learning. But more important than that, we are called by Christ. I mean, he called us in the Great Commission. He said, go and make disciples. People say we want to make disciples who make disciples. And that's the greatest thing that we can do with our lives. Some people sit their whole life and they think too much, and they keep searching for purpose. And they're looking every day, and they can't figure out what they want to do. They're like, I still need to find out what I'm going to do with my life. And Carolyn says this to me all the time. She says, and this is my fiance, Carolyn, she says, how do you feel so assured? How do you feel so confident when you don't even know what job you're going to have when we get to Athens? I'm like, listen, I have one job that Christ called me to do, and I'm doing it. And I feel assured and joy in my heart because of it. And the worth that I place in my life doesn't come from the jobs that I get paid to do. It doesn't come from how I please other people. My life has one purpose, and that's to listen to what God said and do what he told me to do. And it's really simple. Believe in him, number one. And number two, share my belief with other people. Okay? How easy is that? Those are the two things that Jesus called us to do in the New Testament over and over and over and over again. Believe it, believe in the message, and number two, help other people to believe it. And if you're helping other people simply by being a good example, maybe that's enough. But maybe you actually have to do some sharing. Maybe when you shake someone's hand that you just meet, you tell them about who God is. Is that awkward for you? Is that hard and difficult for you? Is it embarrassing to you? And it is if it's okay, but now I'm going to guilt you into thinking that it's not so hard, because it was a lot harder for Paul and for the disciples. Because number one, the people that they were talking to had never heard of Jesus before. The people in the community, this community, at least have some sort of idea of who he is. It's harder for them because it's legal in the United States, as far as I know, to share about Jesus on Facebook. Ancient Israel was a little bit different because they literally were not allowed to share their faith. And there's still 100 countries in this world. That's about 1/3 of the world where it's illegal to share your faith with someone else. And here we sit in the United States, and we're thinking, man, it's hard to share our faith. We don't know. We don't know how hard it is. We have no idea. And I'm up here talking about it, and I have no idea. I haven't been to these countries. I wasn't in Israel with Jesus. I don't know how hard it was, but I read about it, and so I try to understand it. And I try to understand how fortunate I am to live in this country where people can sit in pews and learn about God, and graduates can come up front and get prizes, and people can drive cars and go to colleges, and how fortunate are we? How fortunate are we to live here? And this isn't meant to be a patriotic speech. This is meant to be motivational to you. How fortunate are you to be able to share about God with other people who don't know him? How fortunate are we, okay? We have to seize that. We have to take advantage of it, because we are running against the clock. We are running a marathon that will someday end, and we have to do something with our life that God called us to do. It's one thing to have a great legacy with your family. It's one thing to have a great legacy with your friends, and you're a good family man and you lived your whole life, or are you living and worshiping and this kind of thing. But how many people know about God because of your life? How many people did you change? And when I look back about my own life, I think about the moments that I had with kids where I could have done something more. I always want to do more. And it's tough. It's tough because we don't have that much time. We don't. And some time is important for ourselves to keep that, to recharge, to refuel, like some of you guys are doing this summer. And that's okay. But eventually, you're running this marathon, and the clock's going to run out, and this is my clock that I'm supposed to listen to, and when I'm 2 minutes behind schedule, but it's because it was face down, so I didn't see it. But listen to this. The clock of our life is ticking, and the clock on my sermon is ticking as well. And so this is what it is. You're hired, graduates. Congratulations. You're hired. You believe in God. Help other people to believe in him. That's what your marathon is for. That's why God put you here. God does bless us, but the reason that he blesses us is so that we can serve him. So let's not sit in our lives and use it for our own benefit, use it for our own pleasure. Let's take advantage of what we're able to do up here in the country that we live in and do our best to serve other people and to serve the Lord. Life is not difficult. Believe in God and serve the Lord. It's not that hard. Can I get an amen? I said, can I get an amen? Amen? That's what it is. That's all it is. Amen to that.